This is John T for the Boxing Voice, and I'm joined today by Fabio Wardley, the English heavyweight champion. How are you, Fabio?
I'm good. How's things, mate? How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks for asking. Well, look, thanks for taking time out. First time we've had you on the site. A blistering win at the weekend, which takes you to 10-0 now. Before I come on to the actual fight and the spectacle itself, just wondered if you'd tell us a little bit about yourself, because I've done some research and your background on boxing, or lack of it as maybe, is really, really interesting. So tell us what got you into boxing and what you've been up to.
So yeah, like you said, my way into boxing, or my start to boxing, was a bit different to most. I never did any amateur fights. I've not got any amateur backgrounds at all. I did something called white collar boxing, which is like unlicensed boxing, and it's like it can be good. Obviously, I think sometimes with it you can get a lot of kind of negative looks towards it, but obviously I'm a half decent product of it, and that's something I try and be almost like an ambassador for, is to that you can go through white collar and make something out of it if you want to. So that was my start. I only had 4 white collar fights, and then I turned pro. So obviously 10 fights in as pro now. So total, I've only ever had 14 fights in total. But yeah, that was my start. So I understood that I had a lot of making up to do in terms of experience and ground to catch up and stuff. So in the early days, I was just running around. I was just grabbing sparring from anyone and everywhere that I could, really.
Excellent. What an introduction into boxing. So I'm sure there'd be many fans out there and they would be forgiven for thinking, oh, he won't last 5 minutes. He's never had a proper fight. And look at where we're at now. So you're now up to 10-0, as I mentioned. You've had 9 knockouts out of those 10. Only the first fight out as a pro went to points. So it shows you've got power there. And at the weekend, for anyone who's not aware, you stopped Richard Lartey in devastating fashion in the second round. So how did you find the fight on Saturday, and as well as the bubble? Because I think that's the second fight you've had behind closed doors. Is that right?
Yeah, second time I've been in the bubble. First one was obviously at Fight Camp in August, which was really good fun. And it was a different setting because obviously Fight Camp was outside, so I fought in a ring outside under a canopy and everything. So that was a slightly different experience. Obviously this time a bit more normal. Back to being in an arena, in a venue, indoors. And obviously the time in the bubble it's pretty good, to be fair. I quite enjoy it. I quite like the week of being in the bubble because it's nice to just chill and relax and have some normal conversations with everyone there, with the other boxers, with their trainers, with the staff and whatever else. And just you get to spend some just normal time to chill and catch up with people. So that's always fun. And then yeah, obviously I had the fight on Saturday with Richard, and obviously it went well. It went obviously to plan, I guess. I always wanted to get him out of there. If anyone had asked me beforehand how I thought it would go, to be honest, I thought it would have gone maybe between 4 and 6 rounds. I thought I'd have worn it through a bit longer, but I saw some weaknesses, saw some gaps, and clearly took advantage of them.
How did you feel before I come on to the actual fight and the knockdown? I know you didn't see it on the night, the ring walker Richard Lartey, because I think you came on second, but have you had a chance to watch it back?
Well, to be honest, I did see it because the ramp where you come up from and then you do your ring walk, I was at the bottom waiting while he was doing his silly dance all the way through. So I was stood there for ages, getting cold, watching him dance all the way to the ring. It seemed like never ending.
I think it lasted longer than the fight, by the way. So that shows how quickly you got rid of him. Well, look, on to Lartey then. So the actual fight, as you said, put him away in the second round with a left jab and then a right that seemed to land on the temple. There were 1 or 2 people that felt, oh, did he go down a bit easy? Me personally, I was sat there thinking the first round looked very 50-50 and open. I expected you to win myself, Fabio, if I'm honest. But after round 1, I thought this looks a bit close. Well, did you see something there that you thought you could just take him out?
Yeah, the first round wasn't my best. I wasn't happy with it. I went back to my corner and said to them, I was like, that round was a waste. Like I didn't feel right in myself. I felt heavy. I wasn't doing things properly. I just didn't feel fully there. So I gave myself a bit of a telling off, and got back out there in the second round and switched it up. And then my whole demeanor changed. The way I was throwing shots changed. They were sharper. They were quicker. Just everything about me was more like the me that I know, which was better. So I did that for a bit. I spent the first half of the round, I think, just stinging jabs, just figuring gaps, taking in some information and stuff. And I put quite a stiff jab in, nice and straight, nice down the pipe. And I watched his hands drop, a little bit of his knee went a touch, and they had a look on his face to say like I didn't enjoy that one. So I noticed that. I stuck another jab in just to kind of give him one more, and then I feinted the jab, came with a left hook around the side, because if I knew after throwing them 2 quick jabs that if I feint a third one, he's going to close that guard in front of his face, which leaves the sides exposed. So then I obviously followed that with a left hook right hand.
Showed your power, as I said. 1 or 2 people had questioned out there before the fight. I don't think they'd be negative about worrying about how much power you'd have compared to maybe some of these big heavyweights. So, for example, your Dubois, your Joyces, your Gormans, when I'm talking domestic level. Well, Daniel Dubois took 4 rounds to get rid of him, and I think I'm right in saying that Gorman went points. So that was a bit of a statement that you got him away so early. What's like any feedback, any noise since that's happened?
Yeah, that was what I wanted. I wanted to prove to people that I do have, just because of my size and stature, that you might think you need to weigh 17, 18, maybe even 19 stone to get them kind of knockouts. And my point was that you don't. I think if you know your boxing, you know your boxing well, you know that knockouts don't come from pure power. That's maybe 25% of it. The rest of it is the speed, is the timing, is the punch that they don't see coming, is the one that obviously catches them the worst. So I think that's what mainly I wanted from that, and I'm happy I got that.
I think that's what's quite exciting, because there was a lot of noise after the fight around you've clearly got the power and you've proven that, but also being that little bit lighter, that you probably got the speed and that the movement that you might need against some of these bigger fighters. So bodes well for you. Which brings me on to, what do you think your next steps will be in 2021? Where would you like to see your next fight going, and who against?
Still just good building fights. Still someone who's of a decent level, with a decent name, decent reputation. That can come, bring me a good fight and challenge me. I'm not looking to do those kind of easy journeyman whatever fights and just smash someone over in a round and waste my time kind of thing. I want to challenge myself in different ways with different types of opponents. So really big opponents, maybe smaller, sharper opponents, whatever else it might be. But I need that ring experience that I can use later down the line. Then when I am pushing on to them real contenders and those real guys that I will be challenging for titles with, against, or whatever else. So they're the type of fights we're going to be looking at next. Still people of decent level, but just enough to bring me a challenge.
You've done so well so quickly that I think, I'm sure Eddie would agree, but it's probably, you've got the master matchmaker that you're working for, but it's going to be hard for him to get you fights now, because you're clearly going to be high risk. And do they want to step you up too much, as you said, when you haven't got that round experience? So how about someone like a Nathan Gorman?
Yeah, that's a perfectly viable option. I think the fight with Nathan Gorman would save for something like the British title or something. I don't really think there's not much point in us fighting without something on the line. I think that makes it worth, because for both of us, it's a risk on either side. So at least it needs to be worth the risk kind of thing for us just to fight each other without anything kind of in the balance. It's still a great fight, don't get me wrong, but I think for each side of us, we want something there, that extra little bit of bite to make it worth the while kind of thing. So yeah, Nathan's a great guy, great lad. I've spent time with him. I was up in his camp when he was training with Dubois. So we know each other relatively well as well. And I know he's done interviews and things as well where he said he'd happily fight. And ultimately, we're just 2 good fighting men that looks like our paths will cross. So I think it'd be a great fight.
Excellent. Interesting that you mentioned the British title having a strap on the line, because I'm going to move on now, if you don't mind, on to the big fight this weekend. You've obviously got Daniel Dubois, you've just mentioned, he's fighting Joe Joyce, 2 undefeated British prospects, if you like. You've got the British, the European and the Commonwealth on the line. Firstly, I'll ask you, who do you think is going to win that one, and in which way?
Difficult one. I've been asked this question for weeks on end, and I still haven't come to a 100% conclusion in myself yet. I think, and everyone I speak to either changes their mind weekly, or they can give one good argument and then the other person can give another good argument. So it is such a hard one. I think that for this one, especially, boxing as a whole is quite split down the middle. But I think it's an obvious thing to say, but it is a fight of 2 halves. That if Daniel can get to Joyce early, then I think it's more his fight. And then if Joyce can outlast him and go into them later rounds, which he's more used to, more known for, and more built for, really, with the engine that he has, then he can pull it off.
Interesting. Okay, that tends to be the most common answer, to be fair, which I think proves your point right. It is such a 50-50 fight, and I'll be looking forward to that, as I'm sure you are, tomorrow night. And the winner of that fight, clearly, unless there's any controversy, I'm assuming we'll move on, they would be number 2 in the WBO rankings, only 1 behind Usyk. There's obviously big talk that Fury and AJ next year, if they haven't fought Usyk, they might have to vacate the title, so they might have a shot at a world title, which would mean they might have to vacate that British title, right? Which could slide someone like yourself and the name of Nathan Gorman in sooner rather than later. How would that sound?
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Obviously, that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. We want to look towards moving on, and like I've got the English title, and obviously the clear next step is the British, and that's the direction I want to go, is towards that. So, and I think it works out pretty well, because I don't want to jump straight there really at my next fight. Like I'm only 10 fights in. Like I haven't got a wealth of ABA background to fall on, or any type of previous boxing experience really anyway. So I think it would work out quite well that it gives me still a bit of time to have some more challenging fights, test myself some more in some different ways, and then maybe when I've had 12, possibly even 13 fights, then we can go for something like the British.
You talk very grounded, mate. I'm impressed. Right, I'll move on then away from the domestic scene just before I let you go. There is another fight on Saturday night. Again, it divides opinion on whether they're interested or not. But what are your thoughts? Roy Jones Jr. taking on Mike Tyson, both in their 50s on BT Box Office.
I think for what it is, I think is great. Like I said, I can understand the grumbles towards it and the negative looks that you may get for it, but ultimately, it's great. It's 2 absolute heroes of boxing. Especially for me, like I was born in the 90s, so I didn't get to experience them at their absolute peaks, and all of the build-ups to the shows and the anticipation of a live fight night and how big their names were in boxing. So I missed all that, but just because of when I was born. But now I get the pleasure of actually kind of getting at least a taste of it. Obviously, it's not the same. It's a different setting, and the judges and everything on the fight is all very different. But at least for someone like me who wasn't able to live through that, I can get a glimpse of that experience and taste it, and obviously then just get to watch two great boxers fight it out. And for what it is, it's an exhibition and everything else. But like ultimately, they're 2 boxers in there, and no one's really going to get between them if they start going for it, are they? So it should be interesting.
Yeah, I think, again, as you said, if you take it for what it is, if it's a spectacle, they got some good music going on as well with some famous artists, I think. So should be good fun. Will you get up and watch it?
Probably not. No, probably not. The last time I did that, I stayed up for Loma Lopez, and it absolutely broke me for about 2 days. So I think I'm past that. I'll just record it and watch it the next day.
Yeah, fair play. Well, look, thanks for taking time out to chat to us, Fabio. We'll come and find you in the new year, maybe when you've got your next fight announced. Is that okay?
Definitely, mate. No worries.
Enjoy the fight tomorrow. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Catch you later.
So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.